Hi, I'm Nick Salazar for triathletes.com. I'm here with my man Andy Potts, he of the hairy legs because he's always training indoors. Andy, you had a pretty sweet year. You won 70.3 Oceanside, 70.3 Florida, 70.3 Vineman, Alcatraz, and a couple other of like state tries like the Philadelphia Tri in Texas. Pretty sweet year for you. How you been doing?
Yeah, I'm starting to enjoy the year right now. It's really hard to enjoy the year when it's going on. And ever since I kind of wrapped up the season, it's been, a little bit more relaxed, take a few deep breaths, enjoy it, and then the wife has now put me to work in some construction gigs.
Right on. Yeah, you're renovating your garage back there. And behind us you can see what he calls this pain cave.
Yes.
So explain to us what that is. What is that behind us?
So a couple years ago, I actually had a third-car garage built, and with the idea of, hey, I want to ride and run indoors. I probably do, over 85% of my rides inside.
Do you start to miss being outdoors, or like, the wind in your face, that kind of thing?
I look at that as kind of a flaw to my training, something I do have to fix. I do not get bored. For some odd reason, my wiring and the way I'm structured, I spent 18 years swimming.
Yeah, so you're used to looking at that black line.
And swimming's a lonely sport. Even though there are other people in your lane, you can't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So when I'm on the bike, I'm a voracious reader.
And I guess you get the outdoor experience when you're running anyway?
Yeah, you get that outdoor experience. I think the wind and having kind of the cadence change with undulating terrain is something that I need to probably pay a little bit more attention to moving forward and trying to improve.
All right, so those are the drawbacks of training indoors.
Yeah.
What are the advantages?
I think the advantages are there are no stoplights.
Okay.
And there's no wind in your face.
Yeah.
And there's no undulating terrain. So you can kind of dial in to, a specific cadence.
Specific effort level.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get down to those brass tacks.
Yeah.
I mean, for a triathlete, training with power, one of the most important things is our FTP. It's what triathletes really focus a lot of their attention on, is increasing threshold power at 60 minutes or greater. So how much of your training indoors is either at or just below FTP or contains some kind of FTP interval?
Okay, so I'd say, and just when I look at a snapshot of a random day and a random week of training for me, it would probably be anywhere between 2 hours and 2 hours and 15 minutes riding on the trainer. Okay. So let's call it a 2 hour and 15 minute workout. Okay. I probably spend about 45 minutes warming up at 150 watts. And it builds up to probably like 200, 230 watts. Okay. And that's warm-up wattage for me. And then we start doing some build efforts and build tempos to prime the body, prime the legs for main set. And at the beginning of the season, my main set will be probably like 20 minutes long. Okay. But then when I'm in the heart of the season, just a random week, you take a snapshot of it, main set's going to be at least 60 minutes, if not 80 minutes.
Okay, so early season, you're even like warming up many times longer than the actual main set of the workout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And it's pedal time. I have a kind of a theory. The reason why you see a lot of cyclists improve with age is because they have pedal time. Yeah. And they have time moving the cranks, getting comfortable in their position, kind of building a muscle pattern.
Once you're in your main set, so like how much of that is at your FTP or like a threshold type of thing?
So my coach and I, Mike Doan is my coach, he and I try to get a gauge into when I'm in shape. Okay. So, and that all starts with a work to rest ratio. Okay. So right now, like in season or out of season, I'm like 1 to 1. Okay. 1 part work, 1 part rest. So 5 minutes of the main set equals 5 minutes of recovery. Okay. And as I get in better and better shape, the work to rest ratio changes and it increases. So I go to 3 to 1. 3 parts work, 1 part rest. So it's 15 minutes at, say, 300 watts, 5 minutes at recovery. Okay. And then as I get stronger and stronger, it becomes 8 to 1 and 9 to 1. And then if I can get double digits, then I know I'm just...
Okay.
There better be a race coming around the corner because I'm itching.
Yeah.
When I'm swimming well, it gets up to 15 to 1, 16 to 1. When I'm running well, it's a little bit lower. It's probably 7 to 8 to 1.
Gotcha. You've got a lot more pedal time in the water, as it were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when you get out to race, what are you doing with your power meter at that point? What are you looking at?
Okay, so a lot of people confuse training power with race power. And I don't need to, for some reason, my physiology, I don't need to push race wattages very often and for very long to be able to race at a high watt level and a high pace level.
Okay.
So we talk, my coach and I talk about building a robust system. So for me, I aim to average above 350 watts in a half Ironman. So like a really good half Ironman for me this past year was Ironman 70.3 California.
Okay.
And I pushed 358 watts in Cali. But leading up to it, I don't think I did a workout harder with a sustained effort harder than 330 watts.
Okay.
But I was still able to ride 2 hours and 15 minutes at 350 plus watts based off of that training because I have the repeatability.
330 on a more regular basis.
Very regular.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. It's every day.
So this is one question I had for you since you train indoors so often. Some athletes find that indoors on a trainer, they simply cannot push the same watts as outdoors for the same effort level. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if you've looked at that and if you've noticed that and if that may be part of why your racing wattage is higher or if it's simply, as you said, because of sort of the sustained fatigue level that you keep in training and then on race day you're a little fresher.
You know, if you're riding on a trainer properly, I think it's harder to do. There's not a single pedal stroke that you can get away with not putting pressure on the pedals.
Okay.
So I try to force myself into changing my cadence and my rhythm because that's the uncomfortable feeling that you get when you're riding.
Yeah, sure.
And you get uncomfortable steady state and you get uncomfortable shifting gears. And I think you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in both of those situations.
So for the newbie who hasn't done much with a power meter before and is just starting to get into it, do you have any sort of tips or advice that you would give?
The more data that you can collect, the better. You don't necessarily need to start obsessing over it right away. What you need to do is start to collect data.
Gotcha.
And you're going to know and learn different things along the way, and then you can start to dial in and play with numbers. I'd say the biggest thing that how I use power is I use it as a variable in a bigger equation. So using power is you can either say it's power or speed, and you can use either word, but they more or less for my equation mean the same thing.
So do you not really look at your actual miles per hour very often?
No.
Okay.
Because it could be windy, same course, same day.
Different terrain, undulations. Yeah. Okay.
So my three variables that I use are heart rate, power, and time.
Okay.
And what we try to do and how my coach looks at my previous day to give me the current day's workout, and then I see him every day as well, and he'll look in my eyes and be like, you're lying. The way I'll write a workout, or my coach will give me a workout, is like, okay, well, I'm going to change your power and keep time, and let's see what happens to heart rate, and hopefully it's the same.
Yeah.
Or he'll say, okay, I want you to change your heart rate. You tell me what the power is, and here's the time.
Interesting. Okay.
So we try to only shift one of the variables in the equation to constantly give me a little bit of confusion and hopefully elicit a positive training response and get my muscles to adapt.
And the ultimate goal is, when you're going out to race, you're going to be able to hit X power at X heart rate for however long the race is.
Exactly. And that's when you're in the lead. If I'm out front, I'll dial into a specific power and just push.
Okay.
If I'm not in the lead and I need to be competitive, I will just go with whatever's happening.
Gotcha.
And it's like go until you blow.
Yeah.
but hopefully my training has given me enough to back up whatever is happening on a race.
Seems like that's the peril of being a pro. Like an age grouper just out to be competitive or out to compete with themselves can just do the I'm in the lead mentality. Like I'm just going to push my power as for however long I want. But when you're chasing first place, you kind of just got to do whatever's necessary out there.
Yep, and sometimes what's necessary is too much for me.
Okay.
But hopefully I've gotten to the point where more often than not, what's necessary is what I have in myself and in the bank and what I've been able to prepare for.
So that's kind of the last thing I want to talk about is sort of your improvement. What kind of improvement do you like to see within the season, like from the start to the finish? And then what are you looking at like from season to season? You mentioned it just a little bit earlier.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
We're starting to talk a lot now about watts per kilo.
Okay.
And that being a good variable for me. If I actually go too light, I actually lose power.
Sure. But then do you lose watts per kilo? It's like, that's the question, right? Whether you've dropped too much weight or whether the drop in power is tolerable based on how much weight you've lost.
Right. Yeah. Right. And usually it's not.
Yeah.
So it also doesn't transfer well to my swimming or my running.
Okay.
I'm not looking for a lot.
Yeah, you're saying like 1%
yeah,
season
that's
to season.
A lot.
Yeah, sure.
That's a lot.
Sure.
And if I can get 0.5% or 1% improvement, that to me is a big success, and it will usually translate into results. But sometimes it doesn't. It's sports.
Sure.
It's still really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Any closing thoughts for the newbie interested in power?
Yeah, I'd say as a newbie interested in power, and if you're a triathlete, you already have screws loose.
Yeah.
So there's something missing in your brain already. The key is to kind of find junctures and kind of piece things together a little bit. And the more data you can acquire, the better.
Yeah.
Change one thing at a time, and you'll usually find like either a culprit or a success pattern. You can certainly add a whole new meal to your diet.
Yeah.
But if you add each component to the meal one at a time, you'll know that the meal works together and the flavors taste well together.
Yeah.
And I'd say the same thing for cycling and for running and for swimming. Try to change one variable in the time, power, or heart rate. You change one of those three variables and to get a response, and hopefully your trajectory just moves up, and your career as a triathlete and as an athlete improves, and you get more and more out of a sport that you already love.
Right on. Well, Andy Potts, the master of having screws loose. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
Nick. Congratulations on the great season, and good luck next time.
Thank you.
All right. For a lot more info, analysis, and photos, check out triathletes.com. Thanks.